All right, hey everyone. Welcome to the Origin Community Call. I just posted the notes, the agenda for this call in the chat. If you're here in Discord watching with us, you can click in the top right-hand corner and see the little chat icon to open that up. Feel free to follow along, drop any questions in there or comments if you want. You can also, of course, participate directly in the chat if you want to jump in there. I'm excited about today's call. We have, well, I'm always excited about it, but today in particular, I'm looking forward to having a demo from Vlad, who's coming to join us from Kyber. This is the first of hopefully many opportunities to engage with other projects and see what they're working on, how it might tie into what we're working on, and just keep a pulse on what's happening in the ecosystem and make sure that we're plugged in and involved everywhere we can be. So before we jump into that, let me run through a little bit more of the agenda, and then we can talk about any announcements that there might be from the prior week before we get started. So besides that demo that we'll see in a couple minutes, I'm going to give a preview of the website redesign that we've been working on for OUSD.com. Then we should probably check in on our sprint progress from the 2-week sprint that started last week. I think we've had the same themes for a little while now, and we've got some engineers who are out this week. So I'm not sure what all updates we'll necessarily have there, but we should check in and see how things are going and what it looks like for the coming week. And then we'll check in on any updates for wallet and token list integrations that it's kind of a recurring topic each week. At the end, we'll have a look at any open governance proposals, and then we'll have a few minutes for introductions. So if you've never said hello before, if you want to introduce yourself and let us know how you found us, then there will be some time to do that, maybe in 30 minutes or so. Any announcements that we should start off with? Any thanks to offer to anyone that's made any contributions in the community? Anything come to mind, Frank or anyone else?
We've seen a couple of contributions from the community, but no merges yet, so still reviewing some of these PRs.
Great. Yeah, I know there have been at least a couple of people dropping into Discord asking for GitHub access. So if anyone's ever interested in pushing a branch straight to one of our GitHub repos, we can set you up to be able to do that and be a part of the organization, part of our team of contributors. Also, I don't know if I recognized Orion last time. He had sent over a spreadsheet analyzing some possible yield earning strategies. And that'll be a recurring topic as it has been in the past. We'll circle back on that maybe next week, because I know we've got a couple strategies in the works right now, but just wanted to say thanks to Orion for that. Anything else come to mind before we jump into the demo? Okay. Well, Vlad, if you're ready, I'll turn it over to you. And while you're getting your screen sharing set up, just wanted to set the context a little bit more. We had reached out to Kyber, which of course is an OG project that we've known, had a relationship with for a long time. We had reached out about getting our tokens added to their whitelist for their products, and really want to say thanks for them making that happen, and thanks to Peter on our team for helping push that along. But otherwise, I'll turn it over to Vlad and see what you guys have been working on.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for the introduction. I think today, in the interest of time, I'm gonna focus on 3 main things. So the first one, which would be our DEX aggregator. The second would be our 2 protocols for our 2 DEX protocols. And I will finish off with sort of the things that we do with the projects we partner with on a more strategic basis on some off-chain stuff. So first of all, starting with the aggregator. In case you're not familiar with this concept, it works the same way as your flight scanner. rather than going through individual liquidity sources. You can come to one place which would route the trade in the most efficient manner possible. It would achieve improved rates by splitting the trade into several tranches, and also by using intermediary tokens, which would utilize on-chain arbitrage in order to achieve the best rate. So here you can see an example of this in the working. So rather than going directly, a trade would route through ETH in this case, and it would be split across two different Uniswap protocols. So one way in which this can benefit Origin is, let's say, for the OUSD. Currently, on the website, I see that there's several options listed here, but there's no aggregator included here. And one of the benefits, we've got an API that can be connected quite easily. It would show all the parameters that are currently shown on this UI. And whenever there is an opportunity again for on-chain arbitrage, there would be cases where, when doing an routing through an aggregator, would achieve a better price than the options currently available. I guess that would be like the main. I can see this being the main benefit to Origin as of now, based on my research. In terms of the more technical aspects, the benefits you get is, first of all, it's an encoded API, which essentially means it only requires one-time setup. If we change anything in the future, there would be no changes required on your end. One key advantage that we have is that we are free. So because we are mainly a DEX, we think of ourselves as mainly a DEX. Our DAO gets the fees from the DEX fees. So we offer the aggregator for free, which is different to, let's say, 1inch, who don't charge an upfront fee, but they do charge positive slippage. And if you look into their Q2 report, they actually extracted 6.7 million out of users for providing their service, which, if you divide by the volume, amounts to roughly 0.2% on all volume traded. So that's quite significant. While with us, you essentially get the same benefit, but no charge for that. So that's part number one. The second part is, so we're also a decentralized exchange with a particular focus on stable coins and other correlated assets. We've got two protocols, both feature concentrated liquidity. The newest one is called Elastic. So we took the UniV3 tick-based AMM design. We've written our own code, and what we did, we added several components to it, improving the retail experience. So one of them is that the fees, instead of being just set aside meaning that the users would have to claim them separately, think through their harvesting schedule and so on. So instead of that, we have the fees being reinvested into the same pool, into a 0 to plus infinity range, so like the complete range. So what that means is that the fees are compounding and earning yield without the user having to do any action. The second improvement is the just-in-time liquidity attack just-in-time liquidity attack protection. So if you're a retail, or if you're a passive LP, you don't want there's a particular attack that was introduced with UniV3 and tick-based AMMs, whereby an attacker would supply liquidity right before a profitable swap, and then they would execute that swap and withdraw the liquidity right after, meaning that they don't really contribute to the long-term liquidity, but they extract all the fees associated with that swap, which would hurt the more passive liquidity providers. So we've got some mechanics. We've got a thing where the fees are vested over a number of blocks, which make this type of trade unprofitable. So again, yeah. So like for like, these two improvements would enable users to get a higher APR using like for like settings. The fees and and the liquidity. That's one of the this the Elastic protocol, and the protocol which we had before, which we still have and we still support, is called Classic. So the key difference is that it's a UniV2 style pool, but with concentrated liquidity. So the benefit is that it's a simple, as a liquidity provider, you get a simple ERC20 token, rather than an NFT. And one of the benefits, especially for smaller retail users, is that it's cheaper to trade with in terms of gas fees than the more advanced tick-based protocols. And one more thing I forgot to mention, what we introduced, the last feature that we introduced over Uniswap v3 is the liquidity mining infrastructure. So there's currently no liquidity mining infrastructure on UniV3, while we've built the world first smart contracts for that. I guess, yeah. And the great thing about the concentrated liquidity concept is that you don't have to have a lot of liquidity to start earning a high APR. So we're currently running some liquidity mining campaigns on Polygon, and you can see that we're changing our design slightly, and I cannot see the information I was looking for. Okay, I cannot show it right now, but essentially we were getting 50% APRs on very small liquidity. Again, thanks to the routing, so that even if you deposit 50,000 of liquidity, you can still route a lot of transactions through your pool and thus achieve a high APR. So that is again for the holders of OUSD or is it OMV, the governance token. You can explore what we have to offer, and it might be a better way to park your liquidity rather than using Uniswap v3. So those are the two on-chain parts. For the last one, things that we do that other projects don't typically engage in is we take a more partnership-driven approach. So that means that if depending on the level of strategic, how strategic we see the partnership, we can do things like co-marketing. We've got a community of over 250,000 people. So yeah, we can engage our community, see if there's overlap and interest between your communities and our communities. We can look into things like we can look into things like liquidity mining, again thanks to the infrastructure we've built. We can look into things once there's particularly for OUSD, once there's sufficient on-chain liquidity, we can look into adding it into one of those routing options, meaning that our backend would constantly monitor OUSD pools, and it would suggest, so let's say a user wants to exchange ETH for USDC, it would suggest to route that trade via OUSD. We can't do it for all the projects because it's very intensive in terms of hardware resources. But so this is why we have certain requirements, mainly to do with the liquidity. But that's definitely like one of the things we can consider going into the future. And lastly, we are a multi-chain project. We're on 12 EVM compatible chains. So as Origin looks to expand into non-Ethereum chains and rollups, L2s, we can also facilitate. It would be an easier transition given that we've got the same technology across the 12 chains. Okay, so that's what I had to say. I'm not sure if we're going to take any questions or not.
Yeah, let's do that. Anybody have a question to kick it off with?
I do. Just a quick one. You mentioned that it might be easier or significantly easier to do liquidity mining. I guess, would you mind extending on that a little bit? Would you be able to kind of assign emissions to certain campaigns, or what's the real utility in that with this new optimization?
Right. So, first of all, the infrastructure is there, right? The infrastructure is working. So here is the list of our current campaigns on Polygon. We don't have any on Ethereum at the moment, but yeah, here is Polygon, and as you can see, so I was talking about the high organic APRs, and yeah, you can see that the APRs range between sort of 10 to 50% organically, even on quite small TVL. So what we offer, we've got the smart contracts which are ready to be used. The second thing is we can look into, again, depending on how strategic the partnership becomes, we can look into contributing our own tokens to help with the campaign. Usually we do joint campaigns if we choose to do them. So those would be the two main things that we can offer there. And actually the last thing would be the advice in terms of how to optimize the settings. So in this case, it would be, I guess, mostly to do with the fee structure and also with the ranges.
And do you support liquidity mining on mainnet, or you just don't have any running right now, or it's only on Polygon?
So we do support. So the smart contract is the same across the chains we're on.
Yeah.
The reason why I picked Polygon is that yes, we're focusing on Polygon. This is where we've already deployed a campaign. Yeah. So on Ethereum, we don't have any farms currently running on Ethereum, but it's the same smart contract. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. Any other questions? I've got one or two more, but want to allow for others to ask if they have any.
Yeah, sorry, I can ask. I just put them there anyway. So yeah, I was just curious, do you have MEV protection as well for swaps? Like I've seen with some other protocols that are working on trying to prevent, front running basically. I know for LPing you said you did, but what about for swaps as well?
Right. So we don't have it in our interface, but what we usually advise users, or what I share with users who ask this question, I usually say that everyone can use the Flashbot's RPC, and it works with any smart contract, including ours. So if a user wants to use that, they're free to do so, and it would provide. Their swap would not be added into the public mempool.
Okay, got it. Cool. Yeah, and then I guess sorry.
No, I just wanted to say that, we've discussed it internally, but right now the consensus is that, for certain reasons, we don't want to be directing anyone to any particular RPC or any particular solution. We would rather have users, if they choose to do so, they can do, they can choose whatever option they prefer.
Got it. Okay, cool. Just two more quick questions. One of them is pretty simple, I guess. It looks like you're supporting US-based IP addresses. Is that right? Because I know some of the others aggregators that started blocking IP addresses from the US.
I don't know it for sure, because I know that we're also addressing it dynamically as the situation changes. So I'm not entirely sure, but even if that's the case, a VPN would get around this issue. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not entirely sure, for the US ones whether we're blocking it or not.
Okay, got it. And then I guess the other part that I was curious about is we build a lot of things that do kind of automated trades. Is this something that we could build on top of using smart contracts, or is this all like through an API? How does it actually work?
So the DEX is fully on chain. That is fully composable. With regards to the aggregator, so the aggregator is off chain. The way to interact with it would be through the API. The API is quite flexible, so and any essentially any transaction can be launched or requested via the API. Yeah, this is how we typically integrate.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah, I guess maybe I need to get some more context on how we currently are selling, say, convex or CRV tokens today. If it's just we picked the pool that seems to have the most liquidity, or if we're actually doing any sophisticated routing on our end.
Right. Yeah, and on our side, one of the things we've got dedicated, what's called engineering. What was the position called? Engineering manager. So it's a person essentially in charge with all the technical questions. Like he would be there to answer any technical questions regarding the API or integration. So yeah, if I didn't answer it sufficiently, we can take it after the call, and yeah, I can ask the person that knows much more about it than I do.
Great. Thanks, Orion, for the questions. I was going to bring it back to the first part of your demo, the aggregator, I guess that would be. I think that where this conversation started was you guys were suggesting that maybe we could introduce this aggregator into our intelligent swap routing interface that we have. And so that would be I guess first to recap why that's interesting is right now with OUSD Swap DApp, you're choosing or it's choosing for you either Uniswap or Uniswap v2 or Curve or some other contract. In your case, a transaction could go, if it's the best option, the transaction could end up going through Uniswap v2 and then through Dodo and then through 1inch and come out the other end with OUSD and potentially be more cost effective than any of these options that we show. What would be the next step for us to do that? Just start consuming your API? We wouldn't need to create a pool or anything to be able to do that, would we?
No, you wouldn't. Correct. You would just need to connect with our API, familiarize with the code to request, all the inputs that are needed, it can be set up within a day quite easily.
Cool. And obviously there would be UX considerations on our end. So Matt, when we circle back on this DApp and potentially redesign part of this experience, we might want to think about what this might look like if we were to add something like KyberSwap so that the user might have a more complex route for their transaction, but get a better price.
Yeah, I guess, I would need to double check if how the API would work with the exact route, the route, displaying the route, because usually the UI doesn't really go into that. That's one thing I would need to double check on, but it should it shouldn't be something that would be difficult because we already have everything running for our own front end. So I don't think it would be a deal breaker. Yeah.
Sure. Yep. Well, it's certainly interesting. We'll be looking into it for sure. Orion, did you have another question in the works, or Jeremy? Anybody else?
Mine was about the UI, but I think you guys just covered is how would we basically bring in the UI components that we would need.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would just need to double check on that. It might be already there. It's just that I usually work with Wallis, and Wallis don't usually require that, so I haven't seen it working in action. But I would need to double check on that. Yeah.
any other questions before we move on to the next topic? If there aren't any others, just want to say thanks again, Vlad, for joining us. This is pretty cool. I like seeing what you guys have been up to. I'm going to be using it personally, since it's a pretty cool innovation to be able to find the best price through a bunch of protocols in a single swap.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Yeah, in case of any questions, yeah, please help forward them to me, and yeah, we can address them in
Great.
the group we have. Yeah.
Good deal. All right. Well, hopefully we'll see you again sometime, or maybe sync up on in your community. Hopefully.
Sure. Yeah.
Let me try to share my screen. Just a second. While I'm working on this, Jeremy, did you have any updates on wallet or token list support? I'm jumping around a little on the agenda, but I need a second to get my permissions to work on this different computer.
Wow, I was muted. Yes, I do. I have two actually. So earlier today, I got confirmation that OGV and OUSD and wrapped OUSD are supported as payable assets on Parcel. So that's great as we transition to more DAO engagements. Now OGV and OUSD could be used as payable assets. So that's great to hear. And then Foro Combo also confirmed that on the 29th, they'll add token support for OGV. And that's it.
Great. Thanks. Thanks for the update. Peter, I don't think you had any other integrations to report, did you?
Not that have been completed over the last week.
Okay. Well, thanks for to push on them, and thanks again for making this Kyber token list integration happen. That was a good one. Let me try to share my screen. Do you see yourselves? I think you do.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So I mentioned that I was going to show a preview of potential redesign that we've been working on for OUSD.com. So the problem that we're trying to solve here is that if you, let's see, too many windows. If you go to OUSD.com right now, this design has served us well for a long time, but we've learned from a lot of people who have visited this page and come through our Discord and our various community channels that they have a lot of the same questions when they see this page, and there's not an immediately clear path to answering those questions. So that's where we're trying to start, and our approach to this was to bring data front and center and show rather than tell. Show what OUSD is and how it works, and so this is the maybe first or second pass at trying to do that. So you can see here that when you land on the page, you get a quick summary about what OUSD is and a call to action to get it. And then this number, which is the TVL or total supply of OUSD, it would be going up as you're looking at the page. Sort of simulates the rebase experience, but it also shows an ever increasing number that represents the TVL, not just a single user's balance. So when you read about that, or when you see this at a glance, you might say, okay, that's great, but why should I care? Well, it's the APY that tends to attract most people to OUSD these days. And so you would scroll down below the fold and see a compelling APY, and you could toggle between 7-day moving average, 1 year, etc. And this is one thing that we were changing slightly from the way it currently works, where you have this just this little subtle drop-down menu here. Some users seem to think that this means they would get to choose what term that they would lock OUSD for, something along those lines. That's of course not the case because you don't have to lock OUSD or stake it. So this is hopefully a little more intuitive, like looking at a historical chart on an exchange. You're able to see the historical performance and more easily grasp that this is actual performance over time, as opposed to a promise of future performance. If you're drawn to the APY, your natural next question is probably, where does this come from? Why is it so high? How are you able to earn this APY? And so that's where we dive straight into where the funds are currently allocated. The APY is derived from the vault funds being deployed to a combination of various strategies. This is not representative of how they're allocated today. Right now, I think most of the funds are in compound, but you can imagine how this would become interesting as the allocations start to change more frequently. And if you're looking at a trailing annual average APY, the current allocation doesn't tell the whole story. If the APY over the last year was 11%, but today all the funds are in compound, that doesn't tell you how we achieved that APY over time. And so we have this timeline here that you can slide along to see how this allocation, how the split evolved over the past year. And then you can imagine there would be a call to action maybe to learn more about these strategies or actually get involved in changing them. And then the thing that probably we really want to drive home is that OUSD is always fully collateralized. It's not this APY and OUSD supply is not determined magically through some algorithm. It's maintained. The peg is maintained, and OUSD is maintained because people can always redeem for the underlying collateral. So here we have a really clear picture of what's currently backing OUSD. And along the way, on any of these, you should be able to drill down and see the proof on any of them. So you want to know that there really is 20 million worth of USDC backing OUSD right now. You should be able to click and immediately go see it on chain. And then the last piece is last piece about OUSD specifically is the proof of us treating security as a top priority. So here you see references to our audits from all the top tier firms. And then we will have a section dedicated to, hang on, this is a little bit, it's scrolling on me horizontally. Then we'll have a piece about the governance token and a call to action about earning a high APY with the governance token and where you can get it. That's a quick summary of where the redesign is headed. We'd love to get feedback on all of this. The copy is a work in progress, as is the visual design, I would say. So I'd love to hear anyone's comments. And we'll be posting updates in our new channel in Discord, which I think is called OUSD Product Design. And wanted to say thanks to Ari, our product designer now for many years, and our new incoming OUSD specific product designer, Matt, who I don't think has introduced himself on this call, so we might get him to do that a little bit later if he's still on the call. Any questions or comments about this before we move on?
Well, one comment I had, Micah, is there's some shared components between OUSD story and the originprotocol.com website. So I wanted to get the team together to figure out if there's a way we could leverage. We could have shared components as opposed to rewriting like 3 times the same components.
For sure.
So team expect a meeting from me where we can discuss, and then let's kick off the implementation work.
Great. And I think that Roland's here. I just handed this off to him. It's obviously not done, but I think Frank, you encouraged us to get the ball rolling, and we'll refine it as we go. But we can go ahead and get started on the general layout and those new components, and then the fun part, at least if I were writing the code, the real challenge would be building these interactive charts. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Sounds great. And thanks, Roland, for picking this up.
I think the next thing on the agenda, if we have a little bit of time, is the sprint check-in. So we have a few themes that we've been talking about for a while. One is the on-chain governance rollout. I think one of the blockers there is me just giving any final UX feedback to Tom before we ship that. Another thing that was a blocker was the parameters that we wanted to set on the governance contracts, such as the threshold for creating a new proposal, the quorum requirement, things like that. I shared my tentative conclusions there, and I think we have maybe one outstanding question about how high we should start on the quorum requirement, just to be ultra conservative and make sure that no proposals go through without us. And us being surprised about them, because I don't think we're going to have time to set up any exhaustive, perfect monitoring to otherwise prevent that. Does that sound right? Any other thoughts on what we need to do between now and rolling this out?
I have a quick question. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, how easy is it to update those parameters if we wanted to after it's shipped?
It's doable. It's not, it's a little bit of work, but it's not too bad.
Frank, I think the real big piece that we haven't done yet is testing by sending a test proposal through and experiencing it end to end. Once we get the DApp where we want it, which should be any day now, is there anything else stopping us from submitting that proposal, going through it, and then I guess we'll need to set the parameters first. Then we send the proposal through. Anything after that before we go live?
Yeah, so we need to settle down on the self-delegation, the vote self-delegation. We discussed it last week, but we haven't made a decision. So I'm going to sync up with so Daniel is out this week, but I'm seeing him, he's at the conference. I'm seeing him on Thursday. So I'm going to talk with him about that because that's a blocker for the UI in particular. So yeah, we should keep that in mind.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that since last week? I mean, I feel pretty strongly that we need to make those changes. I could be convinced that they're not critical for the initial launch, but I think they are critical for us to get any real participation on the voting side.
I'd agree with that as well. So I just want to sync up with Daniel, make sure we are not missing anything.
Okay. Thanks for following up on that, making sure we didn't forget it. How about a general update on the value accrual? I know Shahul's been working on the buyback and everything associated with it.
Shah, you on the call? Do you want to give us a quick update?
Yep. The PR is up. Daniel said when he's back, he's going to run some tests on the mainnet fork before he can, approve that PR.
Thanks, Shahul. So we're pretty much blocked on that until Daniel's back next week. Frank, is that the case?
To do a final review before we deploy it. But in the meantime, Shah started working on the MEA strategy and generalized strategy.
Cool. That was my next question. Do we have any updates on timeline for review or potentially deploying either of those?
Yeah, so this week Shah is focusing on writing the automated test for the OUSD MEA strategy. So then when Daniel comes back next week, we'll do a review, and the goal would be to deploy so the next week, basically, OUSD MEA strategy. And after that, we'll work on the generalized strategy.
All right. And is it too early to say what kind of time frame we could expect for launching the generalized one?
I'd say so. We need to write the code is there, but we need to write the automated tests, and then we need to do a review. So I think we are looking at probably like in the order of 2 weeks from now, realistically speaking, since Doman is out and Shai is picking this up, but he needs to ramp up, and Daniel comes back next week.
Well, that's great. I mean, I don't know if I realized Doman had made this much progress on it before he was gone. So I mean, we want to get these going and get the APY up sooner rather than later. But As always, we don't want to rush into any strategies or contract changes, since security is always the most important feature.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's top of mind for us. One thing to think about from a product standpoint is once we delegate the governance to once we move governance to the smart contracts, it's going to take about it's going to take an extra week for deploying code. So we should figure out if we want to deploy the mayor strategy and the generalized strategy before we pull the trigger on governance or not. Let's discuss async.
Yep. Good reminder. Thanks. All right. Any other questions about any of that? Sprint priorities, strategies, anything else before we move on? The last theme was around marketing, and I covered the website redesign earlier. I think the only other thing to report there is that we've had a new member of the team join who will be focused on building out a marketing team and a long-term strategy there. Not sure if he's here and wants to say hi. If so, feel free to unmute if you wanted to introduce yourself. But otherwise, you're welcome to do that next week, either way. And while we're holding off on that for a second, just want to put in a plug for the governance proposal. Talk about it every week, but if you want to vote on how OUSD's backing funds are allocated across those strategies we've been talking about, then you can do that at vote.ousd.com, and that proposal will open for voting in a few hours. We got a few minutes left. If anyone else wanted to say hi and introduce themselves, we'd love to hear from you, whether you are a member of the team or just somebody stopping by, whether you've been here before or not.
I can say hi. I recently joined as the product designer on OUSD. My name's Matt. Excited to be working on everything that's come in. Thanks.
We're excited to have you. I mentioned earlier, but everybody should check out the OUSD product design channel and look forward to Matt dropping some mock-ups and screenshots in there very soon.
Yeah, comment away.
Anybody else want to say hi? Let us know how you ended up here or what you're working on. And if you're unable to unmute, send me a message and I can check into that. All right, well, you'll have the same opportunity next week. We'll be here again next Monday. I had a few action items from last week that I need to follow up on, and I think there was maybe one for this week for Franck to schedule a meeting. And that's probably it for now. So thanks everyone for being here. Thanks again to Vlad from Kyber for stopping by, and we'll talk to you again soon. Until then.